Hi, and welcome to The Electric Human, episode 7. And this one is called Energy Laws. And there are many aspects to the way electricity works and energy works. In this episode, want to really focus on one, although the idea here is that as we are getting more energized and there is more electricity building on the planet, and we ourselves are electrical beings, we have this electrical dimension to ourselves, it is good to start understanding and looking at different laws and ways that electricity works, ways that energy works. So although we're looking at one, there are many aspects to this study. And if you want to pick up on the study, go to www.rubyendeavor.org and you can study the material in your own time. There are many different subjects, starting with the electrical human, but moving on to universal laws and how to read body language and general detection and sensitivity work. And then there's development of qualities, and there's all these different trails, 7 different trails inside the Ruby Mountain studies. And we have online meetings to discuss some of the aspects of that work. So take a look on the site and join in on the studies. So energy laws, but really just to look at one particular, and that is to do with that phrase, electricity follows the path of least resistance. It's not really true, that phrase. It actually follows all paths, but it will flow stronger along the path of least resistance. Now, how does that turn up in our lives? Really to do with the circuits that we have set up and the behavior patterns that we have set up in ourselves, so that when energy comes in, the force of that energy will flow along those behavior patterns. So the synapses that we form up, and we form up a lot of synapses. A newborn baby's brain weighs about 3/4 of a pound. Adult brain is about 3 pounds. But in that first 3 or 4 years, it develops about 80% of the weight of an adult brain. So most of that weight is coming from synapses that are formed up. Apparently there are about 1 million synapse links formed up every second in that first few years of baby's growth. Now most of it gets pruned away. They use the term pruned away. The brain starts shedding synapses that it doesn't need. And that process actually goes on through life, if you think about it. Things that we learn, things that we study, names of school teachers, names of friends, all the things that we've shed from our neuron system. It's quite extraordinary. Now, why am I mentioning these synapses and these links inside our brain, these sequences that we have inside our brain? Is because energy flows through those pathways. It's an electrical system. So the things that we do most often and things that we consider most often, energy runs through. This is what forms up a radiation around the head, and also the brain's link into the body. So if we do certain movements, energy flows down to the arm, for example. So energy is flowing through the body to make it move. The more often, the thicker the synapse, the more energy is going to go through. So why that's important, that basic idea, is that unless you consider those pathways of the brain, we won't understand why increasing energy follows a certain course. In other words, we have to really build the pathway so that the electricity flows through in a way that we wish for. And that's why we have to take some control of our thinking, reactions, and start choosing to respond rather than react. Now that's not easy, because if you've already got a synapse formed up to react a certain way, then we tend to react that way. And where do these patterns form up initially? From what we see with our parents, what we see with a brother and sister, what we're seeing around us. We start forming up these patterns. That's why when you were young, I'm sure you came out of a movie and you wanted to act like what you saw in the movie. I know for me it was Kung Fu movies, and I came out and I was a Kung Fu master for a couple of hours. So I had seen those patterns, and then I'm coming out and I'm wanting to reproduce those patterns. Here, where I live in Salvador, there's a park, and young people get together now and again, and they dress up as knights, and they're all out with plastic swords. They've seen it on TV, they've got the patterning, and now they get excited and charged, and they want to play out that particular patterning. So if we're going into a time that energy is becoming more charged on the planet, it would be wise to consider what pathways I have. How do you react in certain situations? How is the sequence of processing emotionally inside you set up so that if you come under stress, if you come under more flow of energy, how is it going to play out? And if you think about it, that's what education and personal development and training is all about. It's really setting you up so that at the point there's a certain line of behavior, a certain pattern and sequence of occurrence, of outlay. Think about before a soldier goes to war, all the training. That training is really setting up synapse patterns that will, in the heat of the battle, the person will, the energy, the stress, the action will naturally go down those synapse patterns. However, there's another element to this, which is not so clear in basic biology and neuropsychology, which is that different patterns attract certain energies also. So if you set up a pattern of, for example, kindness, it will induct that frequency out of the atmosphere and the essence world. So if a person's studying kindness, thinking about what kindness is, pondering kindness, developing a sentiment for kindness, they're developing a neural pathway that when an opportunity occurs or they make the opportunity, they will be kind, they'll have the action, but also the energy will start to flow. The energy of kindness will start to flow through the person. And this is what starts to constitute the aura. And the person can look and say, wow, you've got a blue aura that indicates you're a calm person, you're a person who likes to run on a cool force and have things run calmly, this type of thing. So what we're thinking and how we're thinking, we are forming up synapses that are going to induct certain types of energy. And also, if we don't do it consciously, the synapses we have by default, in other words, they were set up automatically by our parents, by school, by friends, by the media. These are the patterns that energy is going to run down as we get into more electrically plasmatic and conductive times. So this is a really interesting thing to ponder because this is really a law. Curiously enough, electricity travels fastest along the media of silver. Copper is also a very fast conductor, but silver is the fastest. And you had an ancient myth, the idea of the silver chalice or the silver grail or the holy grail. And that was really describing to do with the head being a superconductor because the chalice was the head and shoulder area. Was and is. So more force, more conduction. The head is conducting in at high speed with greater breadth and scope and range. It was known as the silver chalice, and also with the fine quality of silver. Played out, expressed as a cup, external cup, but it was really to do with the process through the head system, the mind and the head at high levels, at high conductivity, high potency. So what is all this saying? It's saying, be careful what you think. It's saying, do the work beforehand, set up the trails in your head beforehand so that when the energy comes, it will flow out in a safe way, in a way that you would want. So it's almost like setting up an irrigation system. You know, when they irrigate plants, they set up these irrigation systems so the water's going to come flowing in a particular way, particular direction. The question here is setting up one's own thinking so that as the force comes in, it's going to irrigate your life and others with nice, fresh, pure water or energy in this case. So those are a few thoughts for this episode, but I would recommend looking at other laws of energy. For example, high things go to high things. Low energy is attracted to low energy. This is another very important law. High energy can nutrify past nutrition, can help low energy, but low energy can only drag down high energy. So be careful with your energies, and we'll see you in the Electric Human Part 8.